You've lived a great life and done well for yourself. But what mark will you leave on the world? How will you inspire future generations? Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand have helped thousands of people answer exactly those questions. If you've ever wondered, what will be my legacy? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Stan and Katie Beth.
So hello and welcome to Legacy Stories podcast. I'm your host, Eddie James. Today we have a special guest joining us. He obtained his Juris Doctor from the Indiana University Maurer School of Law, where he served as an associate and assistant editor for a nationally recognized Indiana Law Journal. He concurrently received his Master's of Business Administration, his MBA, from Sungkyunkwan University Graduate School of Business in Seoul, South Korea. And after completing his education, he returned to his roots in Arizona, where he primarily practices in the areas of estate planning, probate, and guardianship. And his probate litigation includes removing non-competent trustees and voiding legal documents created through undue influence as far as his experience. So I want to go ahead and welcome Daniel Esparza with the attorney group Lincoln and Wink. Daniel, thank you for joining us today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, blessed to have you here. Blessed to have you here. So loved the resume. We loved everything that we kind of did some due diligence on you before reaching out to you. So I want to go ahead and for this first question, kind of go back a little bit in time. So why did you go to law school?
Well, I think I was attracted, like many people, to the idea of advocating for what the right thing is. It turns out, as I look back to that, my dad actually was in an accident some time ago. He's fine, but it kind of scared my family a little bit. So that I think looking back on it, only hindsight is 2020. You see that this is also something that made me want to go into an area where I could protect people. Because it was a rough time for my family, and getting a trust later made them feel better, and so that's what I try to do with my clients.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. And so not only did you end up having, it sounds like a heart for law, but again, based off of some of the previous experiences, that what kind of helped narrow your focus to estate planning, right? So what does estate planning mean to you? Sorry to interrupt, but what does what does estate planning mean to you when you think about protecting people, as you stated?
I think it's about simplifying, making it easier for people to understand and to manage, guiding people in something that is not necessarily intuitive, but which is it's the legal system that we live under, and making it so that people can actually accomplish their goals, their dreams within that, and to protect themselves and their families. I tell people that it's not death planning, it's life planning. We have to take care of here and now too. It's not just about your family afterwards, after you're gone, but also before then. It's about making sure that if you have that it can keep running if something happens to you. All those sorts of things. That's what estate planning is to me.
Thank you. And then how did you get with Lincoln and Wink?
Well, it was not my first job. I was actually on my own for a little while. After the first law firm that I was with, I went on my own a little bit. That was an interesting experience, to say the least. I ended up finding that I could grow better though by joining another firm, and I did. I did join a firm that primarily did probate litigation, and then while I enjoyed it, and I still do that, I felt like it wasn't exactly the right place for me. And so when my wife and I got married a couple of years ago and moved to Goodyear, it was actually, we drove right by the building, and one thing led to another, and I applied and was fortunately hired, and I've been here for almost 2 years now.
That's great. Now, when you say about the right fit, so Daniel, when you think about the ideal client, what does that mean to you? What does that individual look like?
Mhm. I think it's somebody who wants to be helped.
Mhm.
I'm not here to run your life, and by that I don't mean that we don't provide a service for you, but the way I work is I like to help you actualize what you want, to help you live your vocation, your life, your family. And I cannot effectively do that unless the client actually wants the assistance from it. But when that happens, I'm definitely a partner with you. I try to make it as easy as possible. I mean, that's what the client pays for, right? So I try to make it as simple as possible and do as much as I can. But you very much need to be in the driver's seat. God put us here to with free will, and it's your life to live. It's not mine to live through you. But again, I very much like to be a partner with my clients.
Thank you. And so I love that when you say being a partner. So how can, for those who want to partner with you, how can they best find you? How would you best say that for best ways for people to find you there, Daniel?
I think probably the easiest nowadays is to go online to our website, lwazlaw.com. You can also give us a call directly at 623-536-5500. You'll talk to one of our lovely receptionists, and they will guide you through the entire process to get a consultation with me. To maybe they would see if there's another lawyer who also, because it's not just me, of course, in my firm, another lawyer that would be the best fit for you if you have an issue besides estate planning, maybe not something that's not exactly in what I am. Because yeah, come to us whenever you have something. We can at least point you to the right person. But of course, ask for me if you would like to do estate planning, probates, guardianships, and they'll put you on the schedule for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. Now, when you say estate planning, probate, and the like, Daniel, what would you say are some common issues that you help people out with them?
Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I think I get to prevent a lot of issues, and many times I see the seeds of an issue come up, like fighting within families, difficulty knowing who exactly you should appoint as a trustee, who is a personal representative, things of that nature. It's a lot of time what people don't know. Maybe they had estate planning documents already, but they don't realize what's in them necessarily, and maybe it's not exactly what matches them now. So that's what I get to do a lot of times. Of course, everyone can talk about the litigation aspects of things when things come up a lot of time. But I think the ones that are more interesting to me, actually, at least as of late, have been the ones where I see a problem come up, maybe something I've seen in the past, but I try to head it off before it even happens.
Can you give us maybe an example of a story of where of something like that occurring?
Okay, yeah, let's go to what you talked about a little earlier with me. There was an issue where there was a daughter and a granddaughter who they had their mother sign a deed, deeding the house over to them while she's still alive, 30 days about before she passed, and also had her make a will at that time, leaving everything to her. Now, these, for various reasons, they were not the people that you would expect her to leave everything to, and there was in fact a prior will to that. She was not in a good condition, the mother, and everything. And so what I did was I proved that the preparer, because we take very good care of our senior citizens. We very much care about them not being exploited.
Right.
I used some of the statutes and the interpretation of presumptions under Arizona law, stating that certain documents are presumed to be invalid due to undue influence unless they can prove otherwise. In fact, the other side, they ended up admitting, not really known to themselves, but they ended up admitting that they had prepared these documents, and that there was nothing showing that this was actually the deceased person's will that she wanted to happen. So the court invalidated everything on the spot that very same day, which is a little bit unusual, but it did happen, and declared that the house would be put into the name of the proper personal representative, the proper heir, and let's see, the will was declared invalid and the other one reinstated.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That was a ride.
What a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great example too. Yeah. It's the beauty of here in Arizona that we definitely love to take care of our seniors. To me, it's just that belief that knowing that we hope and pray that we all get a chance to become a senior citizen, right? And we would hope that we receive that same level of care and support as well. So, yeah. Daniel, what about as maybe some examples of just maybe some common misconceptions that you may see some of your ideal clients have when they come to meet with you?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So here's one that comes to mind. I would say when they think that they absolutely need a trust. Yes, trusts are great. I think that they are what I would call the gold standard of estate planning. But again, it's your choice. It's your life, the way you want to live it. There's sometimes you don't need that, and sometimes you don't need the gold standard, I guess, in order to get where you want to go. And so I try to sit with my clients and say, this is really what you need, and this other thing might help you, but it's your choice to do. I don't want to take more from you than I need to. I am really here to live a vocation to serve my clients, and I want to give you the options of what it is that you can get. And I've had many people say, well, you know what? No, we do want that second. We want that trust. We want the living trust that will better organize our estates and make it easier for us and for our loved ones afterwards to be able to administer our affairs and collect their inheritance. I've actually also had people come in expecting to spend a lot, and then told them, you know what, these documents are fine. They were done properly with your previous attorney, and so in a way you can call it turning away business. But I'd rather be able to sleep better at night than to tell them something that's not true.
That's great. That's great. We really do hope that everyone can really hear that heart of a teacher that's shining through with these examples that you're sharing with us today. So thank you. Thank you for that. What about any examples or stories of estate planning going right that you could go ahead and share? While, of course, keeping, any kind of personal information confidential, of course.
Of course, and the attorney-client privileges, I take that to my grave. So
yes,
want to assure everybody about that. But I have what's called, I think if you ever heard of a successful failure, there have been times where the unexpected happened, and the safeguards that I put in place were able to protect things from going really wrong. So I had some clients come in, let's say within the last 3 years or something like that, and it was a husband and wife. They made a trust. They had a trust with me and a pour-over will. Those are the main documents that were important. And I'll see if I can recall pardon me 1 second. They put everything in there appropriately, but unfortunately, the husband passed away very soon afterwards, so they did not have time to put everything into it. And the question was, well, what happens now? What happens with a few of these assets that were left out? Well, I said, well, that's okay. We have a will here, and that leaves everything to the trust. That's what a pour-over will does. It changes your only heir into and that's not the technical term, it's devisee, but we use that for ease of speaking. So the only heir would be the trust, which means everything flows into the trust. The courts don't have to know exactly how it's distributed, nothing like that, which was actually one of the concerns, because they wanted privacy. That's why they had a trust. They didn't want everything to be revealed on how everything was distributed. But the pour-over will allowed that to happen. All the courts needed to know was that the trust was receiving all the money. And then afterwards, outside of court and outside of the eyes of everyone else, the money and the funds were distributed to the appropriate people. And that preserved a lot of family unity. So that would, I say, would be the backup plan. The first thing was to have the trust do it, but then there were a few assets that the pour-over will took care of in probate, which was unfortunate, but it's also one of the fastest probates that you'll go through, because it's very simple. Documents are, airtight. There's not many questions to have to ask. And there was one other level that went through that, and that was there later turned out to be photos on the iCloud account of the deceased husband. And the question was, well, how do we get them? We don't have the password. And Apple does not release documents for nothing. So what we ended up doing is, once she gave me a call, she was a bit worried. And I said, we have a provision here in your will and in your trust under the revised uniform, digital assets transfer act. I forget the exact name. It's a very long one. And I said, if we go to the court, and since we're already in probate, let's ask the court for an order ordering Apple to release those photos. They have to do it under this law. We got that. So we got that order, and within a month, the photos were released, important family photos. So there is a first way that I prefer to do it. I prefer that you use legacy contacts on your mobile device or for any of your accounts. But if you can't do that, then your will should have that, so that if there are any important documents and it's worth getting a court order for them, that you can do so. It's better than not having that option at all. And so this was a case where, things happened quickly. It was not ideal, but from the estate planning perspective, it was done correctly, because everything has gone according to plan since then.
Thank you for sharing. So I hope everyone is listening, because Daniel said a lot of great things in that bit of time. First off, and again, Daniel, stop me if I'm wrong. Of course, I don't have a law degree, but I do kind of like to listen as much as I can to the professionals. So with the pour over will, this is an example here of some assets that weren't being put into the trust.
Mm-hmm.
But because that pour over will was put into place, that kind of helped to expedite some of the time frame in probate, so that way
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as costly or as timely as a process,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
that is exactly right.
And then secondly, as he brought up as well, a lot of people don't appreciate the beauty of a trust, that it provides that privacy, knowing that you would not believe the number of illegal organizations that prey on the widows who are now, who have received a large amount of assets, left to their heirs. And when that's put into probate and that's now all made public, but knowing that within the trust, again, that makes it private. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. That is a nice benefit of a trust, that even if you end up in probate, the chances are that your assets are going to be much more private than if you did not have a trust. And again, that's one of those things that the reason I consider that trusts are the gold standard. You want somebody who's going to tell you all these things, and that's what I try to do, to see really if that's something that's worth it for you. But yes, absolutely, privacy is something that really nothing besides a trust gives you the same way.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, next question. What would you say is your biggest challenge, or Daniel?
Let's see, biggest challenge. Well, an easy one to come up with is trying to I think when it would be a litigation situation, when something happens, they come to you after the fact, and it's not always the thing that they want to hear, what the result is. And this is why you need a will, at least, because you never know exactly what Arizona's laws are going to be at the time of your death. In fact, they can always change. That's the thing, is that a will, you can decide exactly where everything goes, and those will override the current intestacy laws, meaning to die without a will. So for example, many people do not know, they just assume everything's going to go to, say, their wife. It's just the way it normally talks. The husband's worried about their wife receiving something. And if the husband has a child from, say, a previous marriage, and your assets are not going to go to your wife entirely. That's only if all the children are from both of you, or you have no children, unless you have a will, because the intestacy laws state that it will go basically one half to the surviving spouse and one half to all of your children and grandchildren if a child dies. And that's not what most people want. In fact, your surviving spouse could end up co-owning a home with them if you are not careful. So that, and when that happens, sometimes we say that's just the way it is now, and cleaning that up in a way that's going to satisfy everybody is not very easy. We have to sometimes really know the law and exceptions and the way things are interpreted in order to salvage a situation like that.
Thank you. Wow, that's a tough example right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a big challenge. What would you say, what do you like best about being the state planner and assisting people in probate. And I know you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but I really feel that there was still a little bit more meat kind of left on the bone that I really want to go ahead and hear more about from you.
Okay, sure. And let me see if this is what you're looking for. I said that it's something of a vocation that I have in protecting people from what could happen. Even more so than the advocacy part, which advocacy is something in that, but advocating and asking for the court to give you relief versus just taking it by the horns is what I say. Not that's the biggest thing. That's even bigger, I think, and I enjoy that a lot. I enjoy that I can take the experience and bring it to someone else, and prevent a problem. And the relief that you see on your client's face when they say, just after, I don't think even many times they realize what they're going to feel like afterwards. But I've had people say, "Oh my God, I'm so grateful for having this taken care of." Let's take an example today. A guardianship. This was a child turning 18 who was special needs and needs a guardian. So a very simple case from a legal perspective, because they were already planning for guardianship. Kid is happy with that. He wants to continue to have his parents be able to look after him and to protect him because he can't protect himself. But the relief I heard from the dad's mouth coming from him, this is why I do it, because he was so worried if something were to happen before he turned 18, and we got it just a little bit before he turned 18, got it approved. But the relief in telling him, you know what, it's going to be all right. You're going to have these papers. We saw you have to do some paperwork just go collect the documents for him, but he's going to have it within the next few days. And just telling him it's all going to be fine, and being able to say that fully, honestly, no qualifications. That's really what I want. That's better than arguing in court. I think if I can mention something in the Bible saying about to settle with your opponent before, well, I'd rather not have to settle. And then I think Paul writes that why can't you judge for yourselves? Well, my clients many times they can judge for themselves by doing this. I make it so that they don't have to submit themselves to a court that may or may not be the best route. I mean, you never know what's going to happen when you submit your fate to someone else. So I hope that answers the question.
It really does. It really does. And sometimes you just don't know how these times together are going to go ahead and go, because we've never met each other before. But again, I love, and I hope people can really hear it, is just the advocacy that Daniel has shared with us today, right? It's not just about, that let me go ahead and just make the decisions for you because I'm the attorney and I know it, which, yes, we do want you to go ahead and help guide those decisions, right? Because you know the law, but to still be able to empower people to so that way that they can still be able to, as you said, be able to partner with them in this process. So I really appreciate hearing that from you. I know, based on my experience in this profession of financial services, it really makes a difference, people. It really does, when you're looking to find someone to assist you in your estate planning needs, like Daniel said, not only today, but also tomorrow. Daniel, before we conclude with our interview, anything else that you'd like to go ahead and share with our audience today?
Let's see. Well, first, I want to thank you for, I think, phrasing things better than even I could. I mean, that idea of you give your advice, but you want to make sure the client understands that they're in control of everything. I am a tool, a resource for others. I am not here to tell you just what to do as if I know everything myself. I have to look things up once in a while, and that's important. Pride, what is it? Pride cometh before the fall. So we definitely do not want that. So I think what to leave with everyone is that you at least want to definitely consult an attorney. People ask me sometimes why you should go to an attorney when you can see something online. And again, I don't want to tell people what is necessarily the best route for them. In the United States, people can do what they want. They can represent themselves in court. They can do any of the legal things that I do. However, it's always good to at least get advice and to, again, have somebody who's going to teach you about what your rights are, what is necessary, and that sort of thing, to tell you if maybe this will that you had from before is good. And somebody you don't want somebody who's going to tell you that, oh yeah, just trust automatically, or you came from another state, so definitely you need a whole new estate plan. I mean, while I can understand where that's something often when coming from another state, it's sometimes better, very often better, to update your whole estate plan. But you want somebody who's going to actually tell you what the law says about that, so you can make a decision, and is not just there to collect, if I may, just to collect your money, but somebody who's there is actually going to sit there and give you what you paid for, and that is peace of mind and knowledge. So that's what I would say.
Excellent. Peace of mind and knowledge, right? I really believe that those are the items that allow us to go back to sleep at night, right? We all know
that's right.
that we're going to wake up sometimes in the middle of the night with the thought when it comes to our financial picture, which we all should, but it's how can we very quickly go back to sleep knowing that we do have that peace of mind, we have that estate plan into place, with a trusted, partner in the process. So thank you. Thank you for sharing with us today. Well, again, this is Eddie James with Legacy Stories Podcast. I'm here with Daniel Esparza with Lincoln and Wink. Daniel, again, thank you for blessing us today with some words of empowerment, of wisdom and knowledge, and everyone here in the audience of the podcast here at Legacy Stories. We look forward to bringing you more podcasts in the future. Daniel, thank you again for time with us today.
Eddie, thank you very, very much. And thank you for all you do in spreading the word about all these very important topics. I appreciate that.
Oh, thanks. We're blessed to do so. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast with Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To find out more about Stan and Katie Beth, go to pinnaclelegacylaw.com. You can also find links in the show notes.